What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. I can't believe that it is Sunday already. Not a fan of how fast this weekend is going at all. Wish I could just hit the slow down button, reverse time. Funny because when you're doing things that you enjoy doing, the time goes really fast. And when you're stuck doing things that you don't like and you don't enjoy, the time just seems to drag on. So 2 days just went by in a blink. And I don't have work tomorrow, and I have work the next day. I'm already pre-thinking about that. Mm, mm. What's on my mind? Usually, I like to take the time when nobody's here to talk about non-big brother topics. I'm trying to think of one. I have a couple in my mind. I'm thinking of whether I want to deep dive into those or whether I want to get into those another time. One of them is the temporary nature of everything. Like I've always had kind of temporary feelings about things in life because of how many changes that I've had to face. And I think a strength that I developed over the years is that I was never put in any kind of situations that made me comfortable. Anytime I got comfortable with something, I had to change. It wasn't like I was choosing to change or I wanted to grow or something like that. It was that literally, let's say I got used to swimming in a 4 foot pool. All of a sudden, it was 6 foot, and if I didn't swim, I would drown. That kind of change. So at the time, I always used to be, I was comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I didn't like that because I wanted to just be comfortable and I wanted to take the easy road. But now going into my adulthood, life has been similar to that. I get to the top of one mountain, and there's two or three other mountains that I have to climb, higher ones, harder ones, tougher terrain, two sides of the coin. One side, I'm used to that, like I said, but the other side is I I've done enough climbing and changing and adapting. I wish there was a point in time where I could just coast. The other thing is being somebody who had to face a lot of changes in my life makes me somebody who now is in a place where I can control the change. I'm always thinking about my way out. If a job is messing with me too much, I can leave. If a person is messing with me too much, I can leave. If there's circumstances around me that I don't like, I can leave. But I'm learning that just because I can leave doesn't always mean I should. By the way, I've learned lately that busing, mega busing, and all that stuff is not a permanent. praise because the young people say that my job. Well, well, well. What we have here, Wes Bergman always says, "Good morning, protein shake." I mean, not a protein shake. What am I saying? Strawberry, banana, chia seeds, and stuff like that. It's amazing. Their fruits are fresh. The shake is my oat. The thing that I like the most on their menu is what is it? They have like a peanut butter cup. They have a peanut butter cup meal replacement shake, and that includes chocolate and peanut butter blended with old-fashioned oats. I don't know what lecithin is, lecithin, and protein. I don't know what that last thing is, but it tastes like a peanut butter cup in a shake, but it's 600 calories. So I'm sure it's a very good meal replacement. I mean, I've had it before. I'm sure it's a very good meal replacement, but to drink 600 calories, I would definitely have to skip a meal. And I like eating too much. That's why I don't get the meal replacement shakes anymore. The only way I would do that is if I was in a super rush or something and I didn't have time to eat and I just needed something in my system. But aside from that, I'll just take my fruit smoothie or, well, if I was making my own shake, I would have way less calories in there. My shakes that I make at home, I use mixed berries. Yeah, I use mixed berries. And then I use frozen mixed berries because it's cheaper. Buying fresh berry, who has money to do that? And then I use my almond milk, and then I add a couple of scoops of protein powder. I like coming in on the weekends because on the weekend I don't have to rush. Not having to rush makes my experience way better. I can get here a little bit later, and I can stay here longer. That's a beautiful thing. Oh yeah, the reason I said busing is because we got busing birthday. I didn't know that was in the lead time. Busing birthday cake. Condensation. Something dripping? Oh, Okay. Yeah, so I was talking about the power, the, the power of having choice. You know, it's an amazing thing of the experience that we can choose to do what we want, but sometimes having a lot of choices makes things complicated. I remember when I first became an adult, not when I first became an adult, because I was in college, so I was still living less than a real adult life. But when I finished school and moved out on my own, and I really became the beginning of that was amazing because I remember for one thing I never had a car. So then I was talking to my mom. I was trying to get help with the car. She didn't help me with the car. So I was upset. She said, "Oh, you gotta wait. You gotta start working and earn some money and then you get a car." So when I went out on my own, I started working a little bit. I got myself a job. I think that I must have worked the job for couldn't have been more than like 2 to 3 months at the most. And then I went past this car dealership, and the car dealership was like, we can get you a car with any credit or whatever." I had a little bit of credit built up because in college I was giving a bunch of credit cards actually, which was a problem because I was working my $7 an hour minimum wage job, making probably $300 a month, and having these credit cards with $5,000 to $10,000 limits. Mm. But somehow I had a half decent credit score. Went to the dealership, bought this Volkswagen Jetta, 2006. This was 2009 at the time, but not bad for a first car, right? People have these stories of their first car being a lemon. Then I remember calling my mom because I was so happy to tell her I bought my car and I didn't have to wait for it. I got it right away. She's like, "You got a car?" I said, "Yeah, I got a car. I got a job. The job pays pretty good. The job, to this day, my mom told me that she wished that I hadn't done that job, and she has valid reasons for saying so. Just because they're valid doesn't mean I agree. It's really nice outside. Real nice. Real nice. little tiny bit chilly, but nice overall. One moment. I have to admit, it is a tad bit chilly. Woo, little bit chilly. I'm gonna be making a custom shirt today because that's what's on my mind to do. Because I have a race coming up this weekend in Philadelphia, and I haven't really made a custom shirt in a while, and I'm in that kind of mood lately of doing those things that I used to love doing. Okay, and we're back. Yeah, so I got that job in the factory, and my mom thinks that that job should not have been something that I took. I still disagree to this day. I can't believe she still has that opinion, but mom's are gonna mom. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I took that particular job. I finished school. Let me tell you how crazy this is, my life, this story of my life. When I went to college, when I was 17 years old, I told my mom I'm not going to college, right? So she was just like, "Well, what are you gonna do? What's the alternative to going to college?" I'm like, not going to college, right? And I remember she said, "Oh, then what do you? How are you gonna make money? I'm gonna get a job." So then she was like, "Well, you know you're gonna make less money, and it's gonna be harder for you to get a job without having a formal education." And I was like, "Nope, I got plans for that." There is this digital media company that I want to work for. I mean, that I want to do a training with, and then I'm going to go to this trade school. And after I'm done with the trade school, um, I'm going to start working because that place not outsources. I can't think of the word I'm looking for again, but the place, job placement, it does like job placement once you finish with the certification and whatever. And she was just like, well, maybe you'd be better off getting your bachelor's degree and getting a minor in digital media or something like that, or taking an advanced digital media coursework or something within your bachelor's degree, because then you're gonna have a lot more, like, a world of options. And I was like, nah, no, I don't want to do that. So I think that she thought I was bluffing, right? So what she did, so the time was coming closer and I hadn't applied anywhere because I was dead serious. Then what happened was she filled out an entire college application for me. She filled out my whole college application without me knowing, fills out the whole thing. And I remember I was just sitting around in the summertime. I was watching some TV. I didn't have any plans of doing anything else. Like, I was like, I just finished school. Now, the part after you finish school is the part where you take a break. And then she walked up to me with a completely filled out application, A to Z. Y'all know these college applications are hefty. And she puts it in front of me and she says to me, here, I was looking at it, I'm like, what's this? She was like, well, I would hate for you to get into the fall and you don't have any options. I know that you said that you don't want to go to college, but I think that college is the best thing for you. But, you know, I'm here's an application that I filled out and I'm going to, she said, all you got to do is just sign here, here, and here, and here, blah, blah, blah. I'll pay the application fee and it couldn't hurt. And if you get approved for the school, you can choose not to go if you don't want to go. It's just, fill this out. And at first I was like, what are you doing? I told you I don't want to go. How are you going to fill out a whole application without me, for something I'm going to be doing, and then expect me to sign this paperwork? And then I told her no. She said, okay, well, just think about it. And there's not that much time to think about it, but just think about it. And if you change your mind, oh, let me know. And then I don't know what happened. I think that maybe some of my friends were going to the school because it was a local school. So it wasn't like it was an application to go study abroad or something or leave the state. It was not even something I would have to leave my house to go to because we lived basically in the center of the campus at the time. So eventually, like at the very last minute, I signed up for college and I got a conditional acceptance. The conditional acceptance was because my high school GPA was low. Everyone who meets me now assumes that I had a really high school GPA, but I didn't for personal reasons, which as a kid I did not really think so much about those reasons. But, as I have grown, spoken to people, spoken to my parents, gone to therapy and all that stuff, large contributing factor is the fact that my parents left me. Well, not left. I don't want to say left me and make it sound like they abandoned me, but they left me in Canada. It was a tumultuous situation because I was supposed to be going with them to North Carolina because my dad got a job in North Carolina. And then a couple of weeks before I was about to start my freshman year of high school, he says, Mark, we're all moving to North Carolina. I did not want to go. And the way that I fought them about that move, I fought for it and I fought for it and I fought for it. And I got my way in a sense. I did not want to be away from them, but I did not want to be in North Carolina. So my dad was really pissed and decided, hey, you're on your own. We're going to leave you here. You go in the dorm. And being a 13-year-old in a dorm was like, in a sense, was like being in summer camp. Because now there was no parents around. There was one dean, and you're only with your friends all day, every day. So the only way you're really going to do really well is if you have an extraordinary amount of discipline, which I don't even have right now. I didn't have it then. I don't have it now. I can fully admit that. I can be disciplined as hell when needed, but generally, discipline ain't my thing. So because of that, I failed the first course of my life and the second and the third. Basically, I went through a whole school year. I don't remember how many classes you take in the school year. Let's see. Was it quarters? No, I think it was like May, two semesters. Yeah. Um, let's say like September, October, November, December, January, wait, January, February, March, April, May. I don't know. Let's just say 4 months and 4 months. I don't know, something like that. I can't remember. It's obviously been so long. But let's say that we had 8:30 to 3 classes, maybe like 6, 7, 8 classes. I don't know. But I remember the only things that I passed was like gym class and religion class. I think computer class, computer lab. I don't remember what it was called, but it was whatever class was in the computer lab. And those were the easiest classes. And those were the only ones I passed. Like I failed my math, I failed science, I failed geography, whatever it was, US history, all those classes, I failed all of them. And I had never failed a class in my life, but it wasn't because I was studying and I couldn't grasp the material or something, whatever. It was literally just because here I was on my own and I was always used to coming home and having my mom or dad tell me, turn off the TV. Now's the time to do your homework. This is the time to do this. This is the time to do that. And in a dorm setting, there's nobody really doing that. Like in the dorm, they have a study time. The study time was 8 o'clock p.m. through 10 o'clock p.m. But there was nobody in there, 5 a semester, about 8 a year. There was nobody in there with you while you were studying. All it was essentially the RAs would walk the floor and make sure that they would do a room check at 8 o'clock and make sure that everybody's in their room with the door closed. That was study hall. 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., the door was closed. And I had a video game system in my room. So 8 to 10 was pretty much video game time for me. I skipped my classes a whole bunch. And I remember those teachers were calling my mom frequently. So, long story short, my high school GPA ended up being a 1.87. So, there wasn't even too many colleges that probably would have even accepted me with that GPA. And that one accepted me with a conditional acceptance, which basically was if you get anything lower than a C, so you had a 1 year span where you could not get any grade lower than a C. And I mean, that's not the worst conditions in the world. However, for somebody who would come in there and I had gotten several F's in high school, I was like, how am I suddenly going to pull off 2 semesters with nothing lower than a C? So I signed the paperwork. I ended up deciding, okay, why not? If I don't like it, I'm not going to stay. That's honestly my attitude towards too many things. If I don't like it, I'm going to leave. And my first semester at that school, I got like a 3.8. And then my second semester, I think I got a 3.5. And my lowest grade in the 2 semesters was like a B minus. So I felt pretty good about that. And the B minus was only really due to my lazy habits, which will seemingly follow me for the rest of my life. I have really lazy habits. I can't even deny that. Um, all we did was group games. Mine was a 3.811. My current GPA is 3.4. Gotta get that up. My highest was 3 point. My lowest was, I don't even know what my lowest was, but I know that I passed two classes in my first semester of high school. But I don't know in college. Yeah, in college, that first semester GPA, actually my highest GPA was like a 3.93. I think I got two A minuses. I got all A's and two A minuses, I want to say. And that semester was funny because I remember I had this friend that was in all of my classes when I switched into the business department. And she used to be just this book nerd. Like she was just, her life was just study, 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 overachiever, got the highest grades in everything, this and that. And then I remember I was like reading some books. One of the books was called The Success Principles, and it said something like, "You are the average of your five closest friends." And I remember thinking about my friends that I used to hang out with the most. And my friends were getting C's, like C averages. I didn't have a C average, but I had like a B average, B minus. And I was like, man, I am the smartest one amongst my group, and that is a problem. So then I recall um latching onto this other friend, but I thought that I could latch onto this friend like who am I thinking of? I thought I could be Bowie Jane. I thought I could be the Bowie Jane in our friend group where I don't do anything and I just hang around her and then she gives me all the answers. So I remember this one time we had a there was two things that there was a reason why I ended up kind of latching to her is because we used to get these group projects every day, every month or so. Because if there's one thing they love doing in the business department is giving out group projects. And I got put in her group one time. I think that it was like people were picking everyone that they want in their groups and nobody was picking me and it came down towards the end. And we kind of were in a group that was defaulted together, like a Keanu type of thing. So like a Keanu, Kelly, and Lauren type of situation, and Ava. So we were just defaulted together. And the thing with her was that she was the take charge person who would assign everybody a part. You do this and you do that and you do this and you do that. And everybody else just kind of execute. And in that first group that we were in, I finished my assigned part, she finished her assigned part, and the other two people that were in the group with us were dragging their feet, missing meetings, making excuses. So she then was like, Mark, I want to get this A. So I'm doing this and this. Can you do this part and this part? And we'll make up for the areas where they're slacking in. So she didn't know what I could do at that time. I can finish a task. You know, I don't want to assign anybody else a task, but you give me the task to do, and it's like we finish this task and we get this A. I'm gonna do the task that has been assigned to me. So I finished my part, like I said. I finished the other parts that she gave me, and then we ended up getting the highest group score in the class. Hi, Ed, and hi, who else came on here? Is it just Ed? Yeah. So I ended up getting the highest. We ended up getting the highest group score in the class, and then in future groups, she picked me first. Because now she knew how I worked. So it would just be she was the captain, she was the Derek, and I was the Cody. Um, and then we would take we would take whatever other one or two people we got, however many people had to be in that group, if it had to be more than a two-person group, and we would take those other people, and it would be like, well, she knows what I can do, and she knows what she could do, and we'll figure out what the other people will do and make up for where they're slacking. And that formula got me all A's on all those presentations. But then the other thing I was gonna say was that this one time we had like a midterm test coming up or something. And she said, I asked her what she was gonna be doing that evening. She said, well, I'm gonna be going to the library so I can review my notes for the midterm, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh yeah, I'm going to the library too. So maybe we could meet up and study together. But for me, the suggestion to meet in a library and study together was like, I think I'm going to get this easy made guide where I'm going to be able to look at her notes. And then that's going to help me with the answers that I need, because she probably takes way better notes than I do. So she said, yeah, that sounds good. She was like, I'd love to study together. So what you could do is because the teacher gave us key points to study in class. He's like, okay, these are key points that you need to review for the exam. She said, well, you get questions, you take key points 1 through 20, and you give me your notes that you have for that and page references to where you got those answers from. And then 21 to 40, um, I'll show you mine and page references where I got that from. And I was like, oh, shoot. That means I actually have to do something here. But long story short, I got a 3.93 because of being friends with her, because she raised my average. I think schools should let the lowest GPA talk as well. What do we just hear from the valedictorian? They still do that where y'all are at? Because, well, I guess I'm thinking of Canada. Canada removed valedictorians from the system. They don't do that anymore. I liked floor hockey. I liked ice hockey also. I was on my phone. It was just a generic thing about hope. Yeah, I remember the valedictorian of my high school. I don't remember the valedictorian in college because there's way more people in the class, but high school for sure, I remember him. And he definitely came from privilege. Funny enough, the guy who got the valedictorian in my high school, the guy who got the valedictorian in my high school was the same guy who beat me out for first chair. Cam loves Cody. Wow, me and Cam actually like one of the same person. Although I'm not sitting here saying Cody is the greatest player in the world, but I liked him on the show. I remember in eighth grade, we had group projects, and my group, which was my friends, gave critiques to the bully group of girls when they went. We're all like, yeah, There's a lot of misspellings. You spelled Graham as Graham. They were mad as hell. That one girl carried for real. Plot twist. The TikTok girl I told you about how boba tea I got last chair out of five. I got last chair out of four. Fourth chair. And the crazy part for me is that I was always first chair. I was first chair like ever since I started. I made first chair one, two. I think I started in fifth grade, five, six, seven, eight. 4 years of first chair, and this is the first year this was the first year that I didn't get first chair, and I got fourth chair. So it wasn't even like I got second chair. It's like you are on a sports team and you've been a starter. You've been a starter your whole career, and then suddenly you're the last guy off the bench. That was a blow to the ego. That was a big blow to the ego because I was like, fourth chair, what is this? Like I said, I almost quit the band. I was so yeah, I'm about to go, but what I was saying is, yeah, I almost quit the band, but I stayed in the band. I toughed out the year while watching through gritted teeth while this guy who got first chair simply because he practiced more. Like the thing that I hated was that that band instructor was trying to prove a point to me. I felt like he was trying to prove a point to me by making me fourth chair because he said to me, make sure that you practice those audition pieces. Because he said, I don't care what you've done before. This is the thing, it was a new band teacher, but he was aware in the transition, he was aware that I had been first chair for all these years. So he told me, like, make sure that you practice your piece, your audition pieces. He said it's not going to be based on any past performances or previous skills because it's solely going to be based on how well you do on those audition pieces. And that guy practiced those audition pieces like his life depended on it. And I knew that at my best and his best, there was no competition, but I didn't bring my best. And that's what I got. When they made the announcement of the chairs, first chair goes to this one, second chair goes to that one, third chair this one, and fourth chair Mark. I was like, unbelievable, unbelievable, unreal. But I always say, looking back, that's life in a nutshell. If I go to a company, if I'm trying to get a part, a job, a gig, it doesn't matter what skills that I have or what I've done before. The only thing that matters is what I show you right now, what I've done right now. Anyways, I'll be back on later. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that amazing stuff. Talk to y'all soon.